There is the third example. I had been in Seoul. The speaker who declares the experience of the subject from the verb point in the past to the clause point in the past at the clause point in the past signifies that the experience was complete at the clause point in the past with the form of the intransitive verb had. The speaker states this clause in the past perfect tense. The experience of the speaker as the subject started from a far point in the past, and the experience was complete in the clause point in the past. The speaker states this clause at the present. The gap between the present when the speaker states this clause to the listeners in the conversation and the clause point in the past when the experience of the speaker as the subject was complete is revealed with the form of the intransitive verb had. So we can say that this clause is stated in the past perfect tense. For example, I am 32 years old. I can say that I had studied in the high school. The graduation was in 2012, so it is the clause point in the past when the experience to actualize the definition of the intransitive verb study was complete. I entered into the high school to start the experience in 2009. It is the verb point in the past when the experience started. There is a gap between 2025, the present, and 2012, the clause point in the past. This gap between the 2 points is revealed with the form of the intransitive verb had. From now on, we will study about the third role of a verb, the presentation of the number, and the role of the subject in the conversation with the speaker. Is known as the subject-verb agreement. The speaker reveals the information about the number of the subject and the role in the conversation because the speaker is aware that the listeners assign the different importance of the experience, condition, or action according to the subject. The information about the subject can be understood from the care of the speaker for the listeners because the content of the clause that the listeners may receive from the speaker can be prioritized according to the subject of the clause. The listeners who get the various information from the conversation with the speaker have to accept the important information selectively consistent with the priority. This is obvious when we think of the situation. The number of cases to deviate the form of the verb from the original form of the verb by adding a suffix of the consonant sound s according to the subject, is relatively rare. The subject who does not participate in the conversation with the speaker may need to be differentiated to reveal that the subject is additional to the conversation between the speaker and the listeners at present. The information revealed by the form of the verb may be related to how the listeners accept the content of the clause according to the relativity with the subject. So the speaker who considers the listeners signifies that the clause conveys the relatively less prioritized information with the form of the verb. For example, let's think of a general verb to be applied in a clause. The form of the general verb is deviated according to the subject. The form of the general verb is with the suffix s to describe the subject whose number is 1 and does not participate in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners. The clause that is considered to convey the important information is a clause whose subjects are plural or participants in the conversation with the speaker. The form of the verb in this clause stays within the original form of the verb. There is an example. The birds visit a park. The number of the subject is plural. The subject, the bird, do not participate in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners. So the form of the general verb visit stays in its original form. The clause that is considered to convey relatively less important information is a clause whose subject is singular and not a participant in the conversation with the speaker. The form of the verb in this clause is converted with the added sound of s at the latter part of the verb. There is an example. The bird visits a park. The number of the subject is singular. So the form of the general verb visit is with the suffix s. So the listeners can be assured with the fact that the subject of this clause is singular and does not participate in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners. The two conditions, the number of the subject and whether the subject is a participant or not, are linked with the coordinating conjunction or. So we can understand that there can be three possibilities that the speaker applies the original form of a general verb. The first case is this. The number of the subject is singular and the subject participates in the conversation as the speaker. The third case is this. The number of the subject is plural and the subject participates in the conversation with the speaker as the listeners. And the first case is this. the number of the subject is plural and the subject do not participate in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners. So the example number 1 is according to the fourth case about the plural subject that do not participate in the conversation with the speaker and the listeners. Among the 3 possibilities, the number 0 is according to the classification for the number of the subject as plural. The number 1 is important in the Christianity. Our spiritual father integrates every child as an entity. So number 1 is very important. The reason why whether the number of the subject is 1 or not is signified is that the concept of the majority and the minority is made from the 3 subjects adding 1 to the 2 participants of the conversation, the least number of the listener and the speaker. This is the explanation when we consider the situation of having a conversation. When the 2 people have a conversation, there isn't a majority and a minority, but from the participant of the conversation to be 3, there can be a majority and a minority in the proportion of 2 to 1.